Well, it's time for us to review the second ODI, and I feel Gautam Gambhir was just being generous to all the folks who didn't catch the first ODI. उनको शायद लगा था कि बॉस वो तो वीकडे था, आज मस्त संडे, लोग नहा धो के आएंगे, मैच देखेंगे, तो उनको सीधा हम लोग बस जेरोक्स करके हम लोग वही सेम गेम रिपीट करेंगे, दिखा देंगे कि हुआ क्या था फर्स्ट गेम में. बट इस बार जस्ट वन चेंज, हम मैच हार जाएंगे. एंड boy, what was that game? I genuinely don't know what to make of it because sure the surface is slow. We'll get to all of those nuts and bolts. निखिल भाई लेकिन मतलब क्या experiments and all that, you can almost see कि this is exactly why Team India needs to win bilaterals. Like 8 घंटे पहले हमने बोला था वे हटा यार पेटीएम ट्रॉफी ये सब भाड़ में जाए, नहीं चाहिए. 8 hours later you can already see why they're so obsessed with winning every random bilateral.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction then justifies the lack of experiments done, right? Because you see how people are reacting right now. Everybody's on a horse. How are you not doing this? How are you not doing this? This batting order change, bowling order change. So it justifies what the management does. So we'll have to stick a boat. कि कौन से बोट पे रहना है, दोनों बोट पे पैर रख के आगे नहीं जा पाएंगे. We are not Ajay Devgan by any chance of imagination. So I don't think the experiment cost India much, but there were some obvious flaws that were there in the past. They came back to haunt you. And to me, the batting did not cost you the game. The bowling did.
All right, fair enough. Let's have this scorecard out first. For the uninitiated, of course, Sri Lanka won the toss and opted to bat first there. Pratham Nissanka getting out of the first ball of the innings, and it almost seemed like yaar ye to shayad 150 ke andar all out ho sakte hain yahan pe, and all of that. Once again, a very similar template, so to say, 100 odd for 5, wahan se Dunit Balalge, and then there was also Lian Nage, who sort of stitched together a partnership, and from there they somehow managed to crawl past 240, nearly 70 runs being scored, or 70 plus runs being scored in the last 10 overs. Siraj himself coping a few runs at the end. Kuldeep, Akshar, Washington Sundar, the trio, all three spinners, of course, were the pick of the bowlers for India. Washington Sundar in particular made amends to what was a fairly ordinary first ODI for him. 3 for 30, pick of the bowlers for the Indian team, of course. India, in reply, Rohit Sharma, once again, a solid start for Team India. Very good power play. Rohit Sharma being the accelerator there. Shubman Gill was more than happy to play second fiddle to him. 35 for Shubman Gill, 64 for Rohit Sharma. Akshat Patel, the only other batter, being able to score a few runs. And all three of them, funnily enough, scored their runs of 44 balls. I don't know what was that all about. But Somesh, मतलब अगर फिलहाल हम बैटिंग देखें इंडिया की, like you mentioned, अब तो ऐसा लगता है कि सिर्फ रोहित और अक्षर है जिनको बैटिंग आती है, बाकी सब यहाँ पे सिर्फ कोलंबो में सी फूड खाने हैं यार.
No, actually, मुझे तो स्कोर कार्ड देख के लग रहा है कि सब पैक्ड बना गया था कि भाई 44 बॉल्स ही खेलना है, उसमें जितने रन बना सको बना लो. But I mean, see, a lot of layers to pick here. If you look at an overall, if you look at from an overall perspective how the two ODIs have gone, I think this has been a reflection of what Indian cricket has been about for the last decade or so. I mean, these kind of pitches, Indian batters, even the main batters, the star batters, have not been comfortable on such wickets, and it has been exposed across formats multiple times now. So this has been the scenario. Secondly, you cannot do a lot about it because it's a tendency that is catching on. It's not like कि you have other options कि भाई इसकी जगह हम इसको खिला लेते तो ये मैच जीत जाते, because these are your main players जिनको तुमको खिलाना है, जिनको तुम खिलाओगे, and ये उनके weakness है, वो रहेंगे, you can't change it. Third, if you feel that experimentation के कारण ये मैच आ रहे हैं, specifically in the batting order, तो भाई मतलब you were watching something else, because the way Iyer, Kohli and KL have failed, अगर उनको डिमोट नहीं करते तो ये सिचुएशन और पहले भी आती ही. इनफैक्ट Aksar batted out of his skin, to be honest, and he looked very well on course to actually nail an unlikely win for India. But like I said, it's very surprising. Yes, Rohit has been batting well, but collectively, Indian batters against spin have been very, very under par. I mean, Sri Lankan batters, they've averaged around 24 against spin in this series, but Indian batters collectively are averaging 18, which is fairly mediocre.
But what do you put that down to? Because it's not like Indian batters don't face enough spin or spinners, back home, be the domestic season or even during the IPL. What do you look at it? Technique, temperament, क्या लग रहा है वहाँ पे?
I mean, tough to single out anything. It's just like कि भाई उतना. It's basically skill, right? I mean, you need to play late. You need to read the ball of the hand, which is not happening. I mean, Kohli, we know that he's not good at reading. He's good at reacting. He's quicker to spot that and then he reacts. But I mean, very surprising that even Shreyas Iyer is not doing it, who's labeled as a good player of spin, and specifically Dubey. And this sort of paints a picture कि भाई T20 में आके दो छक्के मार देना is different. When ODI is a different, it becomes a different kettle of fish. You might be a very good player of, you might be a very good hitter of spin, but doesn't mean that you are a very good player of spin. You need proper players who understand कि भाई क्या variations हो सकते हैं, who can get to the line of the ball and then play accordingly, which is pretty much not happening. Also, there is something that needs to be pointed out. अगेन इसको एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन के बकेट में डालना है तो वहां भी डाल सकते हैं. सो इंडिया एक्चुअली हैव bowled 39 overs of pace to Sri Lanka in this series so far, whereas Sri Lanka have only bowled 17 overs of pace. So India have been feeding a lot more pace to Sri Lanka as well, which points out to the point that Nikhil made, that probably India are allowing Sri Lanka to score a lot more than they should on these wickets.
And something we spoke about even during the preview about, Mohammad Siraj being dropped and Kamindu Mendes being brought in. So they were very clear कि boss, दो pacer की भी यहाँ पे जरूरत नहीं है, just one is good enough. And clearly that showed on the surface and how they played. But Nikhil bhai, of course, we'll also have to talk about Jerffrey Vandersay there. First, I mean, all of those first 6 wickets going to him. Rahul, Iyer, Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, bhai, एक ही मैच में तुम अगर 500 का विकेट ले रहे हो तो यार खत्म. I mean, I feel my career would have peaked if I took all 5 of them in one innings. To have a spell like that and almost single-handedly ensuring that his side wins. I'll just put the beehive out just to show how good he was in terms of his accuracy, especially. Stuck to that wicket-to-wicket channel, just ensured ki boss, no looseness, nothing was short. He just kept bowling that wicket-to-wicket line, importantly. What really stuck out for you in terms of Vandersay and that spell from him?
So to me, of course, you see the grouping there is very good. We discussed consistency. Right at the top of the game, we discussed that Vandersay will have to be consistent, and he was consistent in terms of not giving them anything in terms of spin to ho raha hai. So usme you can at times lose your line or be too quick. Something that I've been harping like, I don't know, idiot now. Sundar, despite taking those 3 wickets, bowled too fast on this day. And that is something even commentators pointed out. To me, Jerffrey Vandersay just bowled at the right pace, at the right line, every point of time. You look at all the dismissals, I think barring Rohit, everybody else did not pick him at all. Gill drove at one, which was, again, I don't know if he picked it or was just too late to react to it, but Kohli did not pick the line. Siraj did not pick the line. Shivam did not pick the line completely. I mean, ऐसा भी नहीं था कि they were beaten by a small margin. They were comprehensively beaten कि पड़ा ही नहीं ball. So a spinner can't ask for anything more. Even he eventually could have gotten Kuldeep as well, but that was spinning too much down the leg side. But for a leg spinner to have that control, this is as good as it can get for Sri Lanka, and good for Jerffrey Vandersay because he's not someone who gets a lot of games. So for him to get a game and then to make a mark like this, despite the start that he got, it just makes it even more baffling how, despite that start from Rohit, you did not feel confident with anybody else apart from Aksar. Everybody looked very, very tentative and ginger and lacking options. And that is something Sri Lanka exploited really well. I mean, Sri Lanka bhi aake wicket leke ja raha, bro. There is something that has to be done there. This is going back to Moeen Ali era. You cannot lose wickets to Sri Lanka. You'll have to be better at that.
But again, for Sri Lanka, Nikhil bhai, now that Vandersay is done well, and Dhananjay had an off day in all fairness, yaar, 10 over mein agar tum aise wicket pe, if you're conceding 54 runs without really taking a wicket, do you think now should Hasranka be fit? I'm not sure what the status is. Do you think Hasranka and Vandersay, both of them, he's ruled out of the series?
He's out of the series. Yeah, he's out of the 2 ODIs from what I know.
Because it would have been very interesting, the prospect of both the spinners, bowling against India, bowling against this Indian lineup, of course. But Somesh, in terms of India's batting as well, there are a couple of comments I'd like you to take them. So first, of course, is Damodar, who says, before the Indian team used to play spin bowlers very easily, but now I'm not sure what's going on. I wonder how Rajat Patidar would have played in Sri Lanka. Oh, that's a very interesting what if, but कहाँ पे खिलाते हैं रजत पाटीदार को, मतलब किसके बदले?
यार वही बात है ना कि ये भी अगेन व्हाट इफ है, वो देखा है जो आईपीएल में देखा है. I mean, hitting sixes and surviving is different. I mean, यहाँ पे चलो 4 sixes would have changed the complexion of the game. Maybe, but you can't say, right? I mean, that's like what Nikhil said. Rohit ने इतना अच्छा start दिया, the game was almost killed. But उसके बाद भी they're falling like 9 pins, then anything could have happened. And Patidar, we've seen that even tests, whatever limited opportunity he got, he struggled against spin to survive. So, I mean, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो आके succeed कर ही जाता. I'm a big believer in giving him chances because from whatever I've seen, he seems like a talent. So मौका तो मिलेगा बाद में. But I mean, let's talk about the players who are in. I mean, India selected the strongest possible 11. I think barring Bumrah and Hardik, pretty much everyone are playing. So ऐसा कुछ रीजन मुझे नहीं लगता कि कोई प्लेयर XYZ होता तो डिफरेंट होता. But I think this topic of India used to play spin well. I mean, it isn't a topic anymore because it was a prior generation who used to play spin well. This entire generation and those who up and coming players also. I mean, you can't point out and say that single out किसी बंदे को कि भाई ये बहुत अच्छा spin खेलता है. I mean, on numbers we can say that maybe Samson plays spin well, but then that's IPL. वो फ्लैट विकेट्स 20 ओवर में 250 वाले विकेट्स पे स्पिन वर्सेस यहाँ पर जहाँ 50 ओवर में भी 240 नहीं बन रहे. वो पिचेस ही डिफरेंट है. सो इट्स नॉट अ लाइक फॉर लाइक कंपैरिजन एनीवे.
And just taking off from what you spoke about, ki this is probably India's, best 11, barring say Pandya and Bumrah, both of whom have been rested. Then this is a very valid question, right? Cricket Singh asks, why is India changing a fairly settled middle order? Because 11 to tumne dhanka chun liya hai. Do you again put that under the experiments bracket, or how do you look at it? Because Rahul came in at number 7 today, as low as that.
See, again, you need to look at the opposition. They have one left arm spinner and two wrist spinners. So, I mean, it was a well thought out move कि भाई बीच में अगर तुम left hander डालोगे, so maybe it'd be difficult for them to sort of keep bowling in the same channel. They'll have to do something different. Strike rotation possible होता. अब no one can say right कि I mean no one could have predicted that पिछले गेम में सुंदर फेल हो जाएगा, दुबे अच्छा चलेगा. इस मैच में तुम स्वैप करोगे तो दुबे will fall early and Sundar will still stick around. So you cannot predict things like this. The only thing that can be predicted now कि भाई I mean for the past 2 years एक ही चीज कॉमन है कि अगर किसी लेफ्ट हैंडर को प्रमोट करना है ना तो अक्षर को प्रमोट करो. बाकी किसी पे भरोसा करने का पॉइंट नहीं है. Because at least when it comes to playing spin and even pace as well. I mean, I think he's been pigeonholed into a player who plays spin well, but that doesn't mean that he can't play pace. तो अभी मुझे लगता है कि अगर भाई किसी को तुमको प्रमोट करना ही है तो I mean every management should start trusting Akshar a lot more. So that should be the way forward. Baki, there was a comment on KL's mindset कि भाई अगर वो ऊपर आता तो he would have had other options. When he came to bat, he was already batting with Akshar and Sundar was to follow. So there is not much difference. I know जिस तरह से out हुआ, it was not a mindset thing, right? He went for the shot, नहीं आया. It can happen to anyone. And even Gill was unlucky. That was a superb grab. So these things can happen, but yeah, I mean, you learn more from losses than wins. So I'm pretty much all right with whatever is happening.
I mean, Rahul क्या दूसरी बॉल पे आउट हुआ है यार इतनी जल्दी अगर हम sort of character certificates और mentality और
I mean, see, Rahul played two balls. पहला ball it pitched and turned away. He was beaten. दूसरा ball it pitched and he went for the shot. It came in. भाई इसमें तुमने कहाँ से mindset पढ़ लिया? भाई ये just अलग level obsessed with KL.
Also, यार देखो ऐसा सोचो कि if you take out World Cup semi-finals and finals apart, how many chances do these players get to play in must-win games? Hardly, because India dominate bilateral series so much कि even before the decider they've already won the series. So it's good for these players to put into that situation कि भाई a must-win game है. You don't have any other option. You need to show your guts. So it's a positive thing. Even if you go on and lose the series, in the largest scheme of things, that doesn't matter.
Fair enough. I mean, again, like I will still sort of stand by whatever we spoke about during the preview. Ki I couldn't care less if we won the bilateral series or lost it, as long as we are learning from it. That's the important point. Experiments karo, अच्छी बात है, but it's important to learn from the experiments. Just for the sake of it, अगर तुम experiment करके फिर you don't learn from it and you stick to the same tried and tested method of whatever it is that you want to come the ICC tournaments, then even that's not serving any purpose. So sure, experiments an experiment has its place as long as you're learning from it and accordingly making those changes and willing to accept the boss, okay, काम नहीं कर रहा है, then probably we'll have to try and see how, what, where, and how do we go about it. So that's all there is to it. There's one piece though that we can't sort of not talk about, and that is Rohit Sharma and the way he's really turned it around in the last 12 months. Yeah, Rohit Sharma, the batter, especially in the ODI format. I mean, I wouldn't mind going as far as to say he's probably India's best ODI batter right now, like solely based on current form. Like phenomenal numbers that I know the chuckle there from Somesh. Thankfully, Avanish Vikas यहाँ पे नहीं, इसीलिए आराम से और बोल सकता हूँ मैं. But just taking parts comment here as well. In my opinion, Rohit is India's best player of spin, beat any format. He's been brilliant. It gets overshadowed due to his game against pace. Fair enough, and numbers also back that up. Let me just have a couple of graphics out. Highest strike rate as a captain in ODIs. Look at that strike rate, guys. 2,000 runs. I mean, scoring more than 2,000 runs at a strike rate of 111.86. Jeez, those are scarily good, and that's fantastic from him. And in terms of fastest 50s as well, 3 of his fastest 50s have come in the last 12 months. Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Australia. Just going on to show that he's cut a new corner, he's turned a new leaf. And Nikhil bhai, this sort of, I don't know if you can call it a new and renewed Rohit Sharma, but what is it with Rohit Sharma, the ODI batter there?
I think peak is as good or only word that I can sum it up with. There were a couple of moments in this very game which I will never forget. If I'm not wrong, 12.4 and 12.5. Velalage bowled slow. Rohit looks to sweep. He sees नहीं बहुत ज्यादा full है. I can't sweep. He dabs it to first leg. भाई साहब उसके पास इतना टाइम है कि वो स्वीप सोच के डैब कर लिया थर्ड मैन मतलब फर्स्ट लीग के बाद. नेक्स्ट बॉल वेलालगे लाइक हाँ ये स्वीप करेगा ना आउट हो जाएगा. Again he bowls it slow. Loopy on the stumps. Rohit this time is ready. He sits down and slog sweeps him over deep wicket. मतलब that clarity of thought, that execution of skill. I know he takes very much or get मेरे पास extra time नहीं है सबके पास tape time होता है but it's just the clarity of thought and the role and the freedom with which he's batting which I think is giving him absolute freedom to pick the length early and execute because it's not that he's taking undue risk. ऐसा see it's like the shot that he got out with is where I feel that is undue risk but you don't know how it qualifies. Because it's the same thing that we felt on November 19 as well. You've hit 2 boundaries. Do you need the third one? But that is the game he's happy to play. And you look at those numbers, that's not a small sample size. That's a good enough sample size. So I think he is effectively trying to kill the game in the power play. And yes, it will at times stop in the 50s, some days in the 60s, some days even in the 20s. But what he's doing at this age, I think this is as good as Rohit Sharma has ever batted in his career. I feel I don't think he can top this from here.
I mean, completely agree there. But Somesh bhai, I mean, we all know that Rohit Sharma has been in great form. What do you sort of, if you had to, put it down to something, like what do you think has changed?
यार ये तो मतलब it's a $1 million question. Whatever has been unlocked inside him, I mean that is breathtaking. For the past year or so, I mean, I don't even think there is a debate right now that he is the best Indian batter hands down. I don't think there is anyone even close. If you want to contest it and have a poll, of course, I mean, biases aside, if you just put it solely on performance, he is the number 1 Indian batter, full stop. And it's I mean, day after day, opposition after opposition, pitch after pitch, he is like कि भाई बाकी 21 लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि सब कुछ चेंज हो जाता है जब वो बैटिंग करते हैं. एंड ही इज बैटिंग ऑन समथिंग वेरी डिफरेंट कि उसको सब बॉल पता है कहाँ आने वाली है, कहाँ फील्डर है, मुझे कहाँ मारना है. एंड एवरी टाइम ही इज गेटिंग आउट दीज डेज he leaves you wanting for more. So that has been the case. And see, I know it will be harsh, but again, मतलब जब तुम्हारे पास 3600 शॉट्स हैं तो क्यों खेलना है रिवर्स सिर्फ यार. मतलब ठीक है रुक जाओ. But I think he gets this freedom because he knows the potential of the players to follow. That has been that was the case in the ODI World Cup as well because he was laying such a good platform for others to play their own game and take some time and get settled in. But having whatever said and done, I mean, this Rohit Sharma, we might talk about कि he'll be 40 by the time 2027 happens and whatnot. But if he is giving you starts like this, I mean, even he can keep playing till he's 50.
Big words, those. I mean, Rohit Sharma himself has sort of, made no means about the fact कि boss, 2027 World Cup मेरे को जीतना है. That's how he's put it, if I'm not wrong. And what was a Breakfast with Champions episode, if I'm not wrong, or an interview. Like, I'm not exactly sure where he said that, but he did go on to say. So you never know. He's, of course, definitely hopeful of winning an ODI World Cup, something that's sort of still a vacancy, so to say, in his trophy cabinet, the WTC and the ODI World Cup. So let's hope he also gets to win that. Of course, a couple more names to talk about. One, primarily Mohammad Siraj. If I'm not wrong, there was also a comment there by Vignesh Ramya. There we go. Siraj was just unplayable in the first power play, by the way. And there was no support for him to get wickets more than one. But Nikhil bhai, again, in terms of Siraj and the way he's been bowling, if we have to sort of look at how he bowled today itself, look at that. In the first 10 overs, 2 wickets, economy of 3, phenomenal, well done. In the middle overs, not too bad. You can live with it. An economy of 4, just 2 overs felt theek hai. But that final 5, yaar, wahan pe, at the back end, going for 48 runs on a surface like this, clearly that could have potentially been the differential between the two sides. How are you looking at Siraj right now? Sort of, you would expect him to be the spearhead in Bumrah's absence. Not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and that is something that I've been saying almost now in every video as a mandate only. Expecting more from Siraj. So much pointed out about Gill as well, and I think Gill is also someone who will probably talk about later. But Siraj, I don't know how to look at him now. That should we always be expecting of him to be a support bowler, or is there ever a chance of us developing him into a leader? Because you saw what happened even today. Going into the last 10, you cannot allow a team to score 79 runs. That is not the place to be, and you will have to find a way. Bumrah will not always be around. You have to learn tricks from Bumrah. He doesn't shy away from bowling a slower one early. He doesn't shy away from trying a Yorker early. So it's about knowing what works for you, but still trying to evolve. I think with Siraj, he comes to a certain point and then it's there. First, yes, first power play, great. He can bowl 5 overs there. But if he's not taking wickets, it's like that Shami thing that we talk in test. Unlucky Siraj, beating the bat but not taking wickets. But eventually it's not helping the team. And India are a team that rely a lot on wickets. यहाँ तो तुम wickets भी ले रहे हो. But whenever you're trying to close the game out, I don't think without Bumrah, India have enough options. And in a way, it is good because people are now jumping off the Arshdeep train as well. Many wanted Arshdeep directly into the test match setup के भाई बढ़िया है चलो लॉन्ग ओवर फॉर्मेट में नहीं होता ना ऐसा भाई स्किल होते हैं again which is why I beg for separate pools keep people in the format they are good at and I think Siraj as good as he is he'll have to step up or India will have to look at more options to see if he doesn't click who do we next go to Sham is not there Avesh you tried and you have not gone back to it Prasidh is not in your setup so who is your next option if not Siraj and as Som also pointed out and you pointed out if I'm not wrong we will double the overs of pace. So then you are giving the onus to them. We are giving you chances. You need to now step up. It's not that they are underbowled. So I think it's a very good takeaway from India. For India, you don't necessarily have to stick to pace only for the first few. You can start with spin as well. I wanted that to happen today. Sri Lanka did not reap rewards, but eventually they did. So, थोड़ा process, थोड़ा luck, सब कुछ change होना पड़ेगा.
Interesting. Somesh, what about you? Because I'll also sort of add a couple more pointers to that. How much of Siraj's performance so far can be put down to the surfaces itself? Not exactly been conducive to pace bowling, firstly. And secondly, it's not like he's had a lot of support from the other end. Arshdeep Singh himself has not been having the greatest of series. Like he went in excess of 6 runs per over today as well. So, kya lag raha hai? Like if you also take those two factors into consideration, do you think Siraj probably deserves a benefit of doubt there? Or you're also on board with Nikhil?
I mean, see, a bit of both. Just because he is playing without Bumrah doesn't naturally make him the leader of the pack. I mean, वो qualities होनी जरूरी है. Force करके you can't make someone the leader. Secondly, if you look at both white ball formats, something which is consistent with Siraj is that he is very good with the new ball, but he's not as effective with the older ball. Even in the IPL, even in the T20, we've seen that upfront, कभी-कभी बहुत बढ़िया unplayable type के spells डाल देता है वो. But when he comes back to bowl later, when the ball is a little older and softer, maybe he doesn't have, that clarity of thought कि भाई कहाँ रखना है. And right now, I think in both games, Vela Lage has been the difference between the two teams. India essentially have not had any plans to him. I mean, if you look at his numbers, barring Kuldeep, he's been severe against everyone. And specifically against Pacers, he's striking at around 120, if I'm not mistaken, against the Pacers. So, एक ही player है जो वो difference create कर रहा है. And maybe India, I mean, it'll be surprising that after the first game वो कोई plan बना के नहीं आए होंगे. But इस game में भी ऐसा लगा कि they were slightly found wanting there. But right now, I don't think there are ready-made options available if you want to look at other players, and I don't think there is any need to as well. But I mean, it's a lot more concerning that Arshdeep maybe is not delivering to the level that you would expect him to deliver after having such a good T20 World Cup.
And
Yeah,
just
fair enough.
to add a couple more stats on the left-handed bit, because this is something we discussed in the previous series, if not for the South Africa or the Bangladesh one. India have had troubles against left-handed batters, and during that time, only two people had a slight green record against lefties. It was Kuldeep and Siraj second. So you could understand why they go to Siraj because of his better numbers against left-handed batters. But left-handed batters have the best numbers against India now. Best balls per boundary for a left-handed batter since the last World Cup. India is second at 8.7. Matlab, it's not that it's new. It's been there. People have played well. Left-handers have played well in the past against India, but we've struggled to find a way to get them out. And when one of your prime option is Siraj, so फिर he'll have to really find more options with him along के let's plan this out. As Om said, plan करना पड़ेगा कि कैसे out करोगे आप, because it can't keep happening. It's the same thing that we ask of the batters versus spin. It's a skill. You'll have to gradually develop it if you don't have it. वैसा.
उसमें से आधे तो खैर हेड ने मारे.
The list is long, so we'll wait.
बात तो सही है वहां पे. And again, it will be interesting to see. We've spoken. I don't know. We probably even sound like a broken record. Harshit Rana ko do yaar, mauka do, and we don't know now what's going to happen. Because yeah, they are 1-0 down, so they would probably have that result also somewhere at the back of their head. Because we wouldn't want to lose to Sri Lanka 2-0. So wo bhi ho sakta, so they would want to sort of feel their full strength 11. So potentially a cap to Harshit Rana might not be on the cards. So the IPL side of me is thinking, yaar, agar bhai sahab uncapped hi reh gaye to kya hoga? But speaking of which, of course, someone did ask me कि यार कुछ insider खबर लाके दो यार. There we go. Insider ना ही सही, IPL के बारे में बहुत सारी बातें करेंगे, because we all have been hearing rumors and speculations about what went on in the meeting that happened on the 31st of July in Mumbai. So there's lots to talk about, lots to discuss. We might not have the actual rules already being announced in terms of how the retentions and all of that are going to happen. But इतना अगर लोग speculate करेंगे तो जाहिर सी बात है हम भी थोड़ा ये सब speculations उठा के हम भी डिस्कस करेंगे. We'll also sort of अपना मसाला डालेंगे, अपने opinions देंगे कि क्या लग रहा है. So it's definitely going to be a very solid, packed MNL episode tomorrow. So make sure you do tune in. That's of course going to happen at 8 p.m. sharp Monday, of course. One last player that I would want to talk about is Washington Sundar. We spoke about how much Kiar first ODI wasn't the greatest, both bat and ball. Hopefully he would come good for India this time around. Nikhil had spoken about how yaar ball to theek hi hai, lekin it's about Washington Sundar, the batter that he would want to see a lot more of, and him coming good as a batter will be very crucial to India's plans going forward across formats. Paul ke saath to khair yaar, fantastic performance, 3 for 30, pick of the bowlers for India there. Nikhil bhai, again, all in all, Washington Sundar, we saw what he did with the bat. 15 of 40, if I'm not wrong, 38 balls, 40 balls. Hung in there, but did not really help India cross the line. All in all, happy, sad, where are you there?
Yeah, Patani, I've become a very strict teacher with spinners. I just feel you have got the results in 3 for 30, but there is still a room for you to take that 5 for. There is a room for you to take that 6 for. Create more chances. And that is where I said the same thing for Jadeja, even for Aksar in the previous few games. But they've started to get in that line. But maybe it is something that Robin pointed out on air, that maybe it's the action that doesn't allow them to bowl slow. And they are playing so much of T20s that the instinct is to bowl in that range only. Now, one thing that you have to think is how many decks will be like this, whether it is Champions Trophy or South Africa. They may not be like that. So how much worth is it for them to go away from something that works for them? So that's why with the ball, I'm still okay. You're getting the job done, at least you're getting wickets. With the bat, though, I don't think I saw him as fluent. To me, I felt he's probably next best to Aksar in terms of facing spin. In terms of comfort, is what I expected him to be. I don't think I found him comfortable versus spin as much. Yes, he was able to block, but strike rotation and others, you feel that there should be more options there. But the situation was such that he couldn't take a lot more risk, which is why the promotion in the previous game was very important, because there he was batting with batters to come. So when you're not getting enough chances, whatever little you do, you'll have to really do well. So I think the door is still open for Sundar, because Aksar, in my opinion, is ticking those boxes very, very fast. So the challenge will be high for Sundar to come in.
And Somesh bhai, like for example, Sanjay goes on to say the dilemma for India would now be key. Do they want Akshar's batting or Washi's bowling? If they have to pick just the one, I think it's a lot more straightforward than that. Like Akshar is definitely bat and ball as a package, he's definitely leaps and bounds ahead of Boshi.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is something that we mentioned in the preview as well. Uh, the case with Washi is it will be almost next to impossible for him to get into the 11 based on one skill. He needs to deliver on both fronts. As simple as that. I mean, he had an off day with the ball in the other game. He had a good day today. Batting wise, he had 2 off days. So, I mean, moving forward, he has to deliver as a batter as well if he wants to be in the contention. Because जब squad complete होगा, तो you cannot really have both Akshar and Washington in the 11 unless and until one of them becomes such a great batter that they can replace Shreyas Iyer potentially in the squad, because that's the only other opening possible. कि भाई इनमें से कोई एक उठ के नंबर 4 पे तुम्हारे लिए बैटिंग कर रहा है, and then there is a room for someone else to come in. The remaining one of them to come and bat at 7. So that's the only thing which I don't see it happening. Even if India, let's say, move on from Iyer at some point of time, they'll probably look at a specialist batter first, then taking this route. So it's going to be tough, but opportunity है, एक और game है, must-win game है. So those games get noticed a lot more. So hopefully Sundar, the batter, turns up in the third ODI.
Yeah, Sundar, the batter has sort of, hit a lean patch for the last 3 years, to be honest, and across leagues, across formats. ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ India के लिए ऐसा कुछ. Even in TNPL, where he's sort of facing relatively, a relatively inexperienced pool of bowlers, वहाँ पे भी कुछ खास चले नहीं है. Because one of my first memories of Washington Sundar batting that 2017 IPL semis and the player of the match there was him scoring a ton in the TNPL as an opener. That was in 2018 if I'm not wrong. So uske baad se to kuch khas hua nahi, and then of course there's the Gaba. But yeah, he would want to sort of add on to the list of achievements, especially with the bat in hand over there. With the ball though, of course, make no mistake, he has been good, especially since his comeback, because just look at those numbers. He has been consistently picking wickets for whatever team he's played for. And now in case of Team India, just look at those numbers. T20 has taken a wicket in each of the 6 games he's played, and even in ODIs as well, taken 4 wickets in the 2 ODIs that have happened so far. So clearly, with the ball in hand, I don't think we're too worried about it. It's more about Washington Sundar, the batter, if he can step up. Right now, he's at best an upgrade over Kuldeep Yadav in terms of his batting, and he would want to sort of, improve that a lot more in order to sort of hold on to his spot or cement his spot in the 11. The third ODI, of course, is coming on Wednesday, and that'll also be played at the Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. It'll be very interesting to see how India look at this. Will they still be fine with experimenting? Something Gambhir has spoken about always. Will he be willing to walk the talk? This in some sense could also be would also give us a better idea of how Gambhir is now going to look at all these bilaterals. If he truly believes कि बस सिर्फ ICC मैटर करता है, ICC इवेंट्स मैटर करते हैं और ये सब हमें ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता, he will then want to continue his experiments. On the other hand, if the Indian team is sort of facing the heat कि यार नहीं हम लोग 2-0, that's not a risk worth being taken, then in that case you might sort of see a few changes in that direction, especially in terms of the way they play, the way they sort of structure their 11, structure their batting order in particular. So lots to look forward to there as well, and that game's coming live, of course, on Wednesday. And we will be previewing it, of course, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Make no mistake, it'll be Avanish, I'm guessing Somesh and Nikhil will be joining us for that as well. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. And guys, please make sure tomorrow, 8 p.m., of course, we will be going live with MNL as well. We'll be talking about a lot of things IPL. Make no mistake, of course. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Sunday night. We will leave you to that, and make sure you stay hydrated.